lot of attorneys, like especially in like criminal defense or flat fee attorneys, they don't enter that time, and you can be burned by that. That is bad because the client, if the client disputes that, depending on what happened, you might have to give them a big refund for things because you can't justify what happened. And you're also legally in Texas, you're required to do it contemporaneously, meaning at or as near as possible as to the time. So you can't go back and go, well, give me my phone log a month later and I'll put that on the invoice. You're really not supposed to do that. It's close, but it's also a nightmare of at the end of the month you've got to go through and do that. And also if you don't have proper legal help with you, you're trying to recreate time entries. Studies have been done that show like 40 to 60% of your time is not recorded when that happens.
Right.
And if you're running a 15% margin and you're not recording 40% of your time, all of a sudden you're losing money.
Exactly.
It's a bad problem.
1, 2, 3, go.
Jennifer Hardy Har.
Believe it or not,
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Show.
the Lawyer Dana podcast.
Wow, we have a lot to talk about.
Da-da-da-da-da.
And we're going to do it right after this.
And da-da-da-da-da.
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Podcast.
So today we're going to do Secrets of Great Leaders by Carol O'Connor. 50 Ways to Make a Difference by Carol O'Connor, an author who I've never heard of until I went to Kinko's and the printer was broken.
It took about.
Actually, it's not Kinko's, it's FedEx. Is it FedEx Kinko's or is it just FedEx?
They're called FedEx Kinko's.
Oh, they
but
are?
This one was
Okay.
called FedEx.
Yeah, this was called slow because we were there for like 20 minutes at least, maybe.
Well, the problem was
when we were in a hurry.
is that we put an order in. Our paralegal put an order in, and she called them, and they said they could have it ready in 30 minutes. But they actually
We showed up an hour and a half later.
But they
or an
actually
hour.
put on the order 4 o'clock pickup.
And we were there at like noon.
Yeah.
Right, 12:30?
Yeah.
Yeah. When did we get it? Like
I think
1 o'clock probably?
Yeah.
A few after 1, something like that.
Yeah.
So then I went around and bought a bunch of books because I am
Yes.
all about one of the things that we're going to get to in here, which is, we'll get there. All right, so I'm going to go through the table of contents about this book. We're going to shamelessly promote this book for an author that we have no idea and that we haven't read. But
Right.
some of the things that I've skimmed in looked like interesting things for us to talk about, and you're going to get some knowledge about entrepreneurship and personal growth and development in this. So, all right. So number 1, base decisions on knowledge and data. So many law firms don't do that.
Right.
They don't have a dashboard. They don't know what their numbers are. You go, hey, how much money did you make last year? I don't know. How many clients did you intake last month? I don't know. How many clients did you do this year to date? I don't know. How many clients did you do last year? I don't know. What were your gross revenues last year? I don't know. What did you pay in taxes last year? I don't know. My taxes aren't even done. It's like, what? How many cases do you have open right now? I don't know.
How much money are you making each month?
I don't know. What's your average case size? I don't know. Like.
And we're not making fun of you.
No.
It's more of a.
Like half of all the family lawyers that are out there probably don't know these numbers. It's on that level. It's highly concerning.
And it's money that you're missing out on.
It's a lot of problems.
Yeah.
It's this laundry list of problems.
Don't
that
work
creates.
yourself to death and not make money.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
All it takes is some business organization
Yeah.
and knowing to do it. But so many people you're not taught that in law school.
Right.
And you have to, unless you really hire a law firm specific coach, then you're not going to be doing these things. Or some people do, some people naturally do. Like, for example, even one of our Worthy Vision Company members is an accountant and has an accounting degree.
Right.
And still was not tracking a lot of these key metrics, key performance indicators, KPIs. And which is like, how many cases did you open this month versus how many cases did you close this month?
Right.
And how many cases do you have open at any given time? What's the average length of time that your cases are open? How much are your attorneys making? And is it based on what percentage of output? How many hours are they doing in billable work, and how many hours are they doing administrative work?
Right.
And even us, one of the hardest things for us to get our attorneys to track is their administrative time. And it's an incredibly important number for us because I don't know, like, if I'm asking them to do too much this or that in administrative stuff, that I need to hire somebody to offload some of that too, or focus my attention on that efficiency section and see if I can improve that to make their time and life better. And so knowledge and data is, absolutely critical.
Right.
I think we could probably, in this book, that's the first 1 through 6 pages. Mm-hmm. I think we could do hours on the numbers and things, and that's something that we do with our members of the Worthy Vision. But for the purposes of this, I want to see how far we can get through this table of contents. So next, follow your instinct. What do you have to say about that, Jennifer?
Follow my instinct?
Yeah, follow your instincts.
I think it's important.
I think it's important too.
I go by gut feeling. So
Yep.
if I interview someone and I have I don't know gut feeling,
Yep.
that's a no. So if you have that, like, maybe, no.
There's something you can't put your finger on, but it's there.
Yeah. I will tell you, 10 out of 10 times I've done it where you know what, I'm going to give them a shot. Bad mistake.
Yep.
So don't do it. So I think gut instinct is critical.
And your instincts, if you've been trained, I'm going to use an example from basketball that I know, and I don't know a lot of basketball people, but I know a decent amount about Dirk Nowitzki and his routine and just the immense amount of work that he put in order to be able to perform his job. And when you've put in that work and you've done things like base your decisions on knowledge and data, your instincts, your instincts are something that you actually train over time, and you learn and grow. And I think that's very important. All right, number 3, master public speaking.
Oh, that's important. It's very important. You know, I will say this. For me, with public speaking, I always do the best at it by not preparing a ton.
You are the most identified person that I ever have known about not preparing a ton and just doing that.
Yeah, it's, to me, like, I had to do pre-shifts. In restaurants, you do pre-shifts with your staff and you go over different topics and things like that. And so I would know, like, topics, like, boom, 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 this is what we're going to talk about. But that's all I needed. I needed to just have those topics written down. I did not need to sit there and write a speech out, because if I wrote a speech, I wasn't going to do well. Anytime, I remember when I first became a manager, I would write this whole agenda out and I would type everything I was going to talk about. Well, then I just sounded so robotic, and I was losing people in it. And then I was like, you know what, this isn't working. I have to change up this. I need to do it. I'm better on my feet. Like, I'm better on my toes.
That's what I tell attorneys to do. You have an outline, and this is what we do.
Right.
You have an outline and you listen, and you have somebody there checking the boxes for when did you prove this element? Because you miss an element in trial, you don't get it.
Right.
And so you have to prove each element and prove each fact and have each thing there and put into the outline, but you have to listen and you have to be present. If you're reading a script, you're not going to be present.
Right.
And you're not going to be as good of an attorney. All right. Surround yourself with smart people.
Yeah.
That's the key to life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what is it? Let's think about this. I mean, look at anybody out there that has surrounded themselves with someone that wasn't smart.
It's hard to function.
Yeah. Or if you're on one wavelength and you got another person on a different wavelength, I mean, it is.
It's taxing and draining too.
Yeah.
It's an anchor.
Yeah.
It holds you down.
Yeah.
Whereas smart people can add to you and improve you.
Oh, yeah.
And make
you
better off. And it's a much better existence.
Yeah.
It's a happier place. They're going to improve you in so many different ways.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Keep promises and honor agreements. I mean, your reputation and your word is critical.
That's huge.
It's your bond.
Don't tell someone you're going to do something and you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just don't.
See the person, not the stereotype.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just like, don't.
I agree with that.
Yeah, don't.
The way I said that was like as if I am skeptical about it. Like,
Well, there's
I
different,
fully agree with.
Well, yeah, and
with
there's
that.
different ways to seeing people at different stereotypes. I mean, think about it. If you are listening to someone tell you about somebody before you actually
yeah.
got to know who they are,
Yeah.
I've had that happen.
I have good friends who are attorneys now that when I first met them, I thought that they were the stereotypical jerk. Like early in my career, I had a few like that. And turns out they weren't.
Yeah.
And now I have a great relationship with a lot of them and working. And if I would have just thought the stereotype, or there's stereotypes that our clients feel
Right.
and think that, because they're the opposing party, or not the opposing party, because they're the opposing counsel, that they must be certain ways because they read, especially when they read stuff like form language stuff that we're
Right.
like, don't pay attention to that. It doesn't mean what you think it does.
Right.
And they can't get past it. And then they attribute that as a personality trait to the opposing counsel just because they're adverse. That's a difficult thing that comes up in the legal industry
Yeah.
as well. Set high standards is the next.
Oh, that's a given.
That should be Dana's motto.
Yeah. I mean, when I interviewed people for the restaurant, I would always say to them, I don't expect perfect, but I have high expectations. And, I am going to be very open and honest with you. These are my expectations. Do you feel like this is something that you could work with? And as long as people were like willing to work with that, if someone seemed hesitant or that wasn't their deal, and honestly, I don't feel like my expectations were anything that were unheard of.
Or unreasonable.
No, we're high-end
You just
restaurant.
set high standards. Yeah,
we're a high-end
had to.
steakhouse, and we need to make sure we're executing.
Arguably the top steakhouse in the country.
Well, I was just like, I will say, probably, I had guests that would come to me and say, I've done all over the world.
Yep.
And you
I
guys
have.
just nailed it,
I've said that to you.
And so,
Before I really before I knew you or any of that.
I would let,
And I had worked at Three Forks, and I'm going, wow, because Three Forks is way up there. And
well, I would tell
you were
I
excellent.
would tell them, here's our scores on Open Table. We are at 4.8, sometimes 4.9. We teetered. And I said, I would let them know these are our expectations. And I would encourage my staff. So like my server staff, I would tell them, hey, I want you to hold each other accountable. And so no, it shouldn't be like rude or mean or anything, but you need to hold each other to that high expectation so that we're delivering, because you don't know if that table here is going to be your table tomorrow or in a week or so.
Yep.
When they come back, we need to make sure we're always giving the exact kind of service.
Exactly.
It needs to be not robotic, and it needs to be your own personal touch, but they still should be getting everything that they should expect.
At or above expectations.
Exactly. So yes, that's.
And how many times have I said, look, this is the Gordon Ramsay philosophy. My standards. Hit my standards. And you have to, as the owner and the entrepreneur of the
Right.
business, you have to set those standards and you have to hit those standards. And not as like robotic as I just made it seem, or militant as I just made it seem, but no, we have to hit the standards, and we have to figure out what it is that we need to do in order to hit the standards. And if we can do it and be happy with it, then that's great. And you can't hire curmudgeons or people that are not interested in that and don't do that with their own life. And expect them to all of a sudden be great at doing it in business.
Right.
Although a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of lawyers out there do that in their business and then make huge sacrifices in their personal life because you're the person you can neglect.
Right.
And you don't take care of yourself. And a lot of people don't realize what that does to them in keeping them able to deliver a high level of legal services to their clients.
Right.
Benefit from social media.
Oh, huge benefits.
I mean, that seems so obvious and given. And
Yes.
so please share this podcast in your social media.
These days, social media is so important and
It's
so
the key to your
crucial.
business function.
Yeah.
You can't
Like-
function without it.
Like, here's the deal.
If you don't use it, you'll die.
You need to try to get a post
Business
in a day
anyway.
if you possibly can. Like, it's important. You got to keep your page alive.
Yeah.
Facebook is important. If you have an Instagram, merge the two together. I don't know if people understand that, but Facebook and Instagram can be merged together. So whatever you post on Instagram,
Yeah.
will go to Facebook, and whatever you post on Facebook will go to Instagram. There's I mean, there's other social media sites. There's TikTok, but you also have to realize what kind of video and things go for which one. So like for TikTok, it needs to be something very quick, something fast.
Condense everything down into like a quick, easy, clever lesson, and the more humor you can put into it, the better.
Facebook, you can actually have a longer video in there. Instagram gives you a lot of options to really edit images and things like that. If you didn't know that, it's pretty cool with that. So there's a lot of different things that you can utilize that on social media. But nowadays, I mean, the internet is the tool for people on searching for businesses.
It's the new phone book for sure, and it's everything.
There's
and
not a phone book anymore.
There isn't a phone book.
I haven't seen a phone book in years.
Yeah. All right. Follow the rules you set for others. I am pretty decent at this.
That's called walk the talk.
Walk the walk and talk the talk.
Exactly.
Walk the talk.
Walk the talk is what it's called.
You're right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. So if you're going to tell someone to do something, you might as well be ready to do it too. So
I think there's one thing that I don't do, which is, it's something that's assigned out to others. I actually do it. Which is the hardest thing in law firm is tracking your time and making sure that you enter your time. And I would say now I am as close to perfect at that as you can be. But I will tell you, like, if I'm out of the zone on different things, like that's something that would have the tendency to slide as well. And there are some of my time that is entered by other people, which is my initial consultations. My initial consultation time is entered by other people, and that's systematically done. And I do have checks to make sure that all of my calls are entered, but I've been entering all my time, or I make an assignment for other people to enter my time. And that's something that we've built into the business because it's critical that it's done. Because your timesheets as an attorney are what you did do and also what you didn't do.
Right.
Because if it's not on the timesheet, it's presumed that you didn't do it.
Right.
It just depends. But there's a lot of detail that go into your attorney's notes that don't go on the time entry, so you're not going to have all that detail in the attorney's notes. But if you were on a telephone conference with someone, it's expected that you enter that. And for attorneys, a lot of attorneys, like especially in like criminal defense or flat fee attorneys, they don't enter that time, and you can be burned by that. That is bad because if the client disputes that, depending on what happened, you might have to give them a big refund for things because you can't justify what happened. And you're also legally in Texas, you're required to do it contemporaneously, meaning at or as near as possible as to the time. So you can't go back and go, well, give me my phone log a month later and I'll put that on the invoice. You're really not supposed to do that. It's close, but it's also a nightmare at the end of the month you've got to go through and do that. And also if you don't have proper legal help with you, you're trying to recreate time entries. Studies have been done that show like 40 to 60% of your time is not recorded when that happens.
Right.
And if you're running a 15% margin and you're not recording 40% of your time, all of a sudden you're losing money.
Exactly.
It's a bad problem.
Yep.
Okay. Assume you have enemies. I don't have to assume. I'm a lawyer. I know I have enemies.
I assumed I had competitors.
I think I hope most of my enemies are. I don't know that I have people that consider me to be a strong enemy. I don't think I have a lot, but that'd be actually something like, okay, I want to read the book and see what he means by that.
Right.
Because a lot of this stuff is like things that you and I know and we're dipping into our brains, but we are going to read this book.
Right.
But this is the introduction of what this book is about, and on these topics, we're giving that to you. Speak clearly and well. That's the motto of the podcast.
Oh, yes.
Even though last week, apparently, there was a lot of words that I just couldn't speak. And then earlier today, I couldn't remember Greg's name yet again. No, I did. I just called him Rick. At least I don't call him Sally or,
Sally, Jesse, Raphael.
I might call him Sally. I might call him Jesse. I might call him Raphael. But I don't think I'd call him Sally, Jesse, Raphael. But speaking clearly and well, and I would also say speak specifically. Jordan Peterson in his book, that's one of the topics in his book. And it's critical because clear communication and not just good enunciation, but clear, concise communication of ideas and just communicating with clarity is critical. Because so many arguments, especially with husband and wives, they come from one point of view and they mean one thing, and then the other one takes it the wrong way, and that's not what I meant, and then they argue about what you meant, and then they're also arguing about what the actual thing they're arguing about, and the disagreement, and it just spirals out of control. If you speak clearly, concisely, and compassionately, but listening is critically important in speaking as well.
Right.
You know the expression, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's how much you should be using them.
Yep.
You know, so I think that's critical. So plan the long term and work the short term. Absolutely. And especially for me, I'm much more of a big picture guy. And when I'm in the short term, when I'm in the trees, like I'm just focused on the trees and what's going, and I'm not paying attention to the big picture. And so a lot of those things for me and my techniques are having people that watch clocks for me. Because, I mean, even on the podcast, they know, like, I'll go 5 hours before I'll notice that it's been 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And, like, they give me the cues, and I'm like, it's already, like, every time that they've given me the 5-minute cue, I'm like, it's already over. Like, we're already at the end of this podcast, and, like, we can do another one, right? I don't think there's been a time where I haven't wanted to do another one at the end of the day. And I think also I've figured out, like, if I don't eat during the day, then I'm better.
Yeah.
I think lunch kind of dips me down, and I'm fasting today, and I haven't even noticed that we've woken up. And there's a new guru type of thing guy. I think he's actually, like, calls himself a guru or something, but he's a guy that my dad recommended. I'll mention him probably in future episodes. And I saw a thing. He goes, just eat once a day and eat one thing. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And he's like, don't eat like 8 hours before sleep. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you know, the times where I've done that, I'm actually better. So maybe I'll explore something like that. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA.
Intermittent fasting is really good for your.
I have done intermittent fasting for what, two years off and on, or more than that. I did intermittent actually maybe 3 years ago when I first lost the weight, and then I like stopped doing it and kind of put it back on, and then I kind of went back and got back in.
But it also depends on what you're eating and how you're dieting and everything. So just be careful with it, because you need to consume a certain amount of calories.
I do, and I vary it.
Yeah.
And you know, since September, when I eliminated sugar altogether, no alcohol, none of that, and there hasn't been the closest I came is dark chocolate, which dark chocolate is technically on my list.
It's actually good for you.
Yeah, and so but I will have a little bit of it because I know it has caffeine, and I have eliminated caffeine. And that sucked going through that, because I had that thing to where, like, I've limited so much, like, I could have caffeine, and I was only drinking water and coffee. I was down to that. And then I would maybe occasionally drink a glass of, like, actual fresh squeezed orange juice. But I hadn't done that in like months, really. I think maybe in the past 3 months I've had one. But I started drinking so much coffee. Like, it became like I'm just drinking coffee and then, you know, naturally, like, drinking water in between, trying to go 1 for 1. But I would drink like 6 cups of coffee during the day.
Yeah, that's
and then I went half a day without having it, and then went into the next day and didn't have any, and started, like, having really bad headaches and, like, caffeine withdrawals. And I got through the end of the day, and I was with Bill, and he goes, "You need to have some caffeine. Like, please, I will give you $1,000 if you have a cup of coffee right now." And he probably would have, but I absolutely wouldn't have taken any of his money. Like, I refused. I was like, "No, Bill, but I'm also not going to have the caffeine." So, and then by mid to end of the following day, so it took me about 2 days, then I was okay.
So you're caffeine withdrawing on a Disney trip.
Yeah.
Dang it, Dana.
The first part of the last Disney trip sucked.
Yes,
like,
because
not sucked, but, like, we had a lot of like issues. It wasn't going well. Like, it was a bit of a struggle. You know, poor us, you get to go to Disney, but there was, you know, we were stressed. We weren't really, we happened to be at Disney, but we weren't really at Disney.
Right.
We were at work with a Disney World atmosphere surrounding us. Like, we were both on the phone. We were dealing with issues and different things. We weren't really present there. And I was going through that. I felt horrible. Like I went and tried to spend some time with Bill and had to go back to the hotel. I think like the first, like part of that day, like I spent half the day not even in fact, no, the first day that I was there going through the withdrawals, I didn't go to the park.
Yeah.
I think maybe I went in, had lunch with Bill and came out. Something like that. But it was, anyway, let's go to this. So face challenge fearlessly, even when afraid. That is one of the first major things that I did as a young attorney. There was a time where I thought I made a mistake, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go to prison now. Because you can make a mistake as a lawyer that causes you to go to prison.
Oh, yeah.
And it was that I thought I may have illegally recorded someone. And it turns out I didn't. But I called Summer, and I was basically like, I think I might have made a mistake, and I might, like, our marriage might be over, and I might have to let you go, and like I'm afraid, but I'm having courage, and I'm approaching it fearlessly. And but right before that, I was sitting in a room on the top floor of, like, I want to say it was the top floor of the tallest building in downtown Dallas, or if not one of the two.
Right.
Or one of the tallest buildings in Dallas, and this law firm had the top 2 floors, and I had the courage to take them on. Just little old me. It's like Saul Goodman versus HHM,
Right.
but not even HHM. I'm talking like big law in Dallas, and there were 5 people there. Their burn rate was probably $5,000 an hour at the time, and I think I was billing like $300 an hour at the time.
Wow.
And I'm there, courageous and standing up to them, and they asked a question, and I was like I have a recording of this happening, and they're like, and one of them was like, are you recording right now? And I wouldn't answer the question, and they scatter like cowards out of the room. I've never seen like such cowardice, and only one, and it was a guy that I knew, and I really respected him for like staying in the room. And then they went and found their own law firm article on whether it was legal or not, and they're like, okay, you're good, it was legal, and ethical. And I was like, I thought so, but I didn't know so.
Right.
And now I know no. There's a difference between absolutely knowing to a point of legal certainty, and there's...
Well, what's funny is, and a lot of people do not understand this that aren't attorneys, is that an attorney can get sued for malpractice any point. Like, even if you work for a law firm, you can still be sued as an individual.
Yeah, I'm really not worried about malpractice.
Oh, my husband worries about that.
Well, good. Then we have him there worried about it, because I know how to fix everything, and there's not that doesn't particularly worry me. What worries me is if we accidentally commit a crime.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do. It's easy to inadvertently or accidentally do it, especially as a young lawyer, which is another reason why you should work with a mentor attorney or work for a firm. I'm a strong believer that you should do, like as a young attorney who just got your license, consider a residency type of thing for 4 or 5 years. Right. At least 3.
I agree.
But really, like at about 5 years is kind of where it kind of comes in, and you're okay.
Yep.
Use time wisely.
Oh, that's pertinent.
I mean, we're always working on that.
Yeah.
And
I find time management can be one of the hardest things, especially when, like in my role, it becomes hard because I get pulled in many different directions at times. So if I'm working on something specifically and I just start getting pulled because people are reaching out, and there's times where I have to be like, hey, look, I don't have time for that right now. I'm working on this one thing. I need to get this one thing done. Otherwise, I'm not going to get it done. Yep. And so I think key with time management is, setting your boundaries.
Yes.
Making sure people understand like what you're specifically working on. Yes. And make sure they understand that is important at this time for you. And then if there's other things that you can say, hey, at this time I can work on X, Y, and Z. But
I think one of the biggest things that I coach you on is time management and priorities. And when you find yourself doing
I never
certain
had
things,
problems with time management as a general manager. Never. I had it down. I knew exactly, like, there was times where I didn't have a bunch of stuff to do. Like, I was kind of free. It's like all I worried about was the restaurant operations, things like that. Working at a law firm is a little bit different because there's so many different areas of the business. And, of course, I don't have the amount of support underneath me like I did in a restaurant. At a restaurant, you know, I was the GM, but I had a chef, a sous chef, a manager, and a manager, you know. So there was enough people, supervisor, an event coordinator. I had enough people underneath me that had different jobs that supported those roles, and I was overseeing those people.
As you're growing in the firm, we're also putting in those people. We're building your team.
Right.
And this has been, because you've been with us
almost a year,
7-8 months.
Well,
when you really came in,
yeah.
When you stopped being in the restaurant.
Yeah. If you stopped being in the restaurant, it'd be October.
Yeah.
But yeah.
November 1st, right?
No, it's October.
Was it October 1st? It was in October?
No, my last day with Bob's was October 9th. Took a week off, and then I started with the firm.
Cool.
Yeah, full time.
So, and it's identifying things that you are doing and then putting those people into place. But you do have that to a large extent. I mean, because you've got Daniel in the legal department.
Right.
Those are your waiters. And the paralegals are like your chefs.
Consider them a little bit higher than that.
Well, waiters and chefs. I mean, that's I mean, Daniel's definitely the head waiter.
Yeah.
And Daniel's definitely like the executive chef or the head chef. And Daniel's like, do you know who Connie Trujillo is from Three Forks? Danny was the Connie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel is Connie.
Yeah.
And then the line cooks are the paralegals. And the back waiters, they're the paralegals. And then like Emily in the intake and reception department are your hostesses.
Right.
Hosts and hostesses, your maitre d's.
Right.
And who else is there? What else is there?
Billing.
You got Summer and Nicole. I'm just not fast with the name Nicole. Summer and Nicole doing that stuff. So you do have that.
Yeah.
To a large extent, and more and more and more as we're bringing other people in. And then you have Brenda outsourced for for hiring.
Brenda's great. So.
All right. So have a sense of humor. Oh man, if we only had that. I think that's the missing piece from our life.
Yes.
We never laugh at things. Oh my God. If we didn't have a sense of humor, we could not do this area of law.
No.
I intentionally use humor a lot to break stressful situations. It comes in extremely handy.
Yes.
And I think that's hand in hand with public speaking.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of it is charisma. And by the way, if y'all really want, if you want another good channel on to watch, and I recommend this to all of our staff and everything, Charisma on Command on YouTube. Those guys have really great, well-produced videos and extremely good knowledge and education about how to have charisma, and they're great. Build people up.
Oh yeah.
I think the whole point of this podcast is to help build people up.
Yes.
Because I don't know if we said it now, but you can do it.
Yes.
And persistence.
Don't give up.
Persistence. Keep going. You only lose when you quit.
Right.
Otherwise, you learn.
But also, not only building yourself up, but building the people that work with you up. You know, making sure you're complimenting your staff and you're giving them positives and making sure that they see that you appreciate them and what they're doing. That's huge.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Be visible and have presence.
Oh, that's
very important.
Very given.
And I think for me, I think I was a little bit weak at that in last year because we went through a phase where I had to get out of the company a lot in order to break the addiction and change some patterns. And I was just tired, very tired. And I have a new energy now. And in doing creative things, I think a lot of what made me tired was waiting.
Yeah.
And waiting for elements and how long and that I had to persist to not give up on the Worthy Vision Company, not give up on the goals for Palmer Law Group and the company, not just to stay the course and to take the ups and downs and get momentum. And
right.
COVID, the lack of momentum took energy away from me. And I think that's what happened with a lot. Whereas we could work all day long, have the hardest day or whatever, and me feel like I'm on an adrenaline rush at the end of the day and want it to keep going. If it is something that is positive things add energy to me, no matter how what my level of tiredness is, fatigue, but lack of momentum and failure and those things can get at it. But it's not even that there's failure. It's failure to do things, not failure in those things.
Right.
Because I want to do more and I want to achieve things. I'm very motivated and very driven. I don't understand people who aren't.
Right.
Unless they've already achieved that in life and now they're just wanting, different things. I mean, there's a time and a place for all things. But even now, and especially with all of the new things and with new projects and achieving all the goals that I want, as we're moving forward, that's what gives me momentum. And with that, I'm happy to be present.
Right.
And I'm happy to be visible. I mean, we're on camera now.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think
hard to get more
also
visible, but FaceTime's good.
Yeah, and for someone to be present in their business, it's you don't have to be actually there all the time, but as long as your staff and your people know like your dedication, where you're at, what your expectations are, they understand that you are working on the business. Maybe you're not physically there, but you are working on the business. I think those are key pieces of it. And
we can't be here all the time, but we will be here on the next episode of the Lawyer Dana podcast. So like and subscribe, watch, share us with your friends. That very much appreciated. Yes. Buy our merchandise that maybe one day we'll start making. We need to get some merch. we need a Jennifer Hardy Har Har t-shirt.
The Lawyer Dana Podcast.